Hello, I'm Captain Scott Reichel from the New York State Police. We work closely with the Governor's School Safety Improvement Team, school districts, and local law enforcement to help make our schools safer. One of the team's primary efforts has been to review how school emergency response plans were developed and to create common operating language. It is important during an emergency that school staff and students have a clear understanding of how to respond to an emergency quickly and efficiently. For these reasons, we have eliminated the use of codes and recommend against the modification of these emergency response terms. There are 5 standardized terms used in response to emergencies in schools. All 5 are used for protective action in an emergency situation. They are shelter in place, hold in place, evacuate, lockout, and lock down. An easy way to remember these terms is by using the acronym SHELL. If lockdown is not possible, or you find yourself separated from others, you may need to run, hide, or fight. Each of these actions is appropriate for certain types of emergencies and has different requirements of staff and students during the response. We'll review these actions one at a time so you'll know what to expect if your school is in a situation where an emergency response is required and seconds count.
As educators and parents, we understand the importance of not only knowing that our children are getting a great education, but are doing so in a protected environment. And that's why it's so important for all of us to understand what SHELL is and how it's used in the school setting. Throughout this video, students will be assisting me as we demonstrate these emergency responses. So let's get started. Shelter in place is used to gather students and staff inside a safe area of the building. The best possible locations are interior rooms with no windows. However, if you're in a room with exterior windows, and if you have the time, try to close all the windows and lock the door. Keep in mind that a shelter-in-place response can last several hours and is used when a dismissal isn't practical. The most common situations that call for a shelter-in-place include weather events like a blizzard, which makes busing unsafe. It could also be in response to a mechanical issue that requires students to move to a different part of the building, like a broken water main. The steps in implementing an effective shelter-in-place response include the following. Listen for instructions from administration, faculty, and staff about the situation, what actions should be taken, and other updates. If possible, all students in hallways should return to assigned classrooms.
Thank you.
Classroom teachers should take attendance.
AJ. Here. Gabriella. Here.
All other staff should assist students as needed. Move away from windows if the situation calls for it. If instructed, move out of the classroom to a designated safe area. Stay together. The hold-in-place response is used to limit movement of students and staff while the school deals with a short-term incident. In most cases, this means that the hallways need to remain clear of students and staff. A few good examples of when a hold-in-place response is called for include a medical emergency, students fighting, or a crowd control issue of some sort. The steps in implementing an effective hold-in-place response are very similar to shelter-in-place. Listen for instructions from administration, faculty, and staff about the situation, what actions should be taken, and other updates. If possible, all students in hallways should return to assigned classrooms. Classroom teachers should take attendance. All other staff should assist students as needed. The strength of hold-in-place lies in its flexibility. While it is used to control mass movement, it also allows for individual movement within the classroom. Instruction can continue as normal. School staff may allow individuals to leave the classroom to use restrooms as necessary if deemed safe to do so. Plus, there's no need to remain silent during a hold in place, so communication is unhindered. A hold in place can be used as a tool to upgrade or downgrade from other emergency responses, such as lockout or lockdown. The evacuation response is used to evacuate students and staff when it's determined that it's unsafe to remain in the building and no other response is practical. Good examples include a fire, a gas leak, or a chemical spill. A fire drill is a type of evacuation drill that all of us are familiar with. Another one is the early dismissal drill, in which students are released from school not more than 15 minutes before normal dismissal. Students and staff safely depart the building to pre-arranged locations. Identifying an alternate evacuation location by school districts and schools is also recommended in case an evacuation area is compromised and becomes unsafe. And depending on the type of hazard or threat posed to the school, the evacuation response may require everyone to depart all building and school grounds. The steps in implementing an effective evacuation response include the following. Listen for instructions from administration, faculty, or staff about the situation, what actions you need to take, and other updates. Lead students to designated assembly or announced assembly area. If necessary, use a secondary route. Teachers should bring the attendance list and close the classroom door after exiting. Stay together. When it's safe to do so, teachers should take attendance. If the situation calls for evacuating off-site, take attendance before moving from the school site and upon arrival at the off-site location. The lockout response is used to secure school buildings and grounds during an incident that poses an imminent threat outside the school. It often involves police activity regarding a serious crime that took place in the area close to a school or a situation such as an escaped prisoner is in the area. During a lockout, all exterior entrances and windows are locked. All outside activities are moved indoors, and no visitors are allowed into the building, including parents. After all outside activities have been moved inside, implement the following steps inside the classroom. Listen for instructions from administration, faculty, or staff about the situation, what actions you need to take, and other updates. Lock all exterior windows. If there are blinds in your room, leave them as they are. The same applies to the classroom lights. Classroom instruction continues as normal until otherwise instructed. The lockdown response is used to take immediate protective action for students and staff during incidents that pose an imminent danger of physical violence by an individual or group inside the school or on school grounds. Lockdowns should not be used for communicated threats of violence, such as a bomb threat message delivered by phone, written, or through email and social media. Lockdowns are for severe and imminent acts of violence or situations that have the potential of escalating to violence. If any staff member perceives a potential or actual violence is about to happen, they should act quickly and self-initiate a lockdown. Do not wait for school administration to announce a lockdown. Examples where a lockdown is appropriate include the following: active shooter, fights or domestic incidents involving weapons, custodial issue where a parent or guardian could gain unlawful access to a child for the purpose of violence or abduction, aggressive, threatening behavior from a visitor within the building, other acts of perceived imminent physical violence to the staff and student body. When you hear lockdown announced, you should move quickly to execute the following actions. If safe, gather students from the hallways and common areas near your classroom. Next, close and lock the door and barricade the door quickly if necessary. Once the door is locked, students and staff need to move to a safe area in the classroom out of the view from doors and windows. Leave the blinds and lights in the room as they are. During lockdown, everyone must remain quiet and silence all electronic devices, such as your cell phone. If possible, the teacher will take a silent attendance. Do not communicate through the door or answer the room phone. Do not respond to PA announcements or the alarm unless smoke or fire is visible and you feel threatened. Finally, stay hidden until physically released by law enforcement or school administration. A lockdown can be an extremely uncomfortable and stressful experience, in part because all the safety precautions must be acted upon quickly to secure the building, isolate the incident, and secure suspects, if any. Once law enforcement is on the scene and has determined that no immediate threat exists or the threat has been neutralized, the students and staff should be properly taken out of lockdown as soon as possible. If the situation requires an ongoing investigation, your school should either consider early dismissal or downgrading to a hold-in-place procedure. This should help in decreasing the stress level while maintaining accountability of students. It's important that both the school and law enforcement work together in pre-planning how a lockdown will be lifted. The lockdown must be lifted room by physically opening the door, making contact with staff, and advising them of next steps. Any students and staff who are unable to take shelter in a locked classroom should exercise run, hide, fight to protect themselves. Run, hide, fight. These are actions that an individual can take when confronted by an active assailant and traditional school emergency responses aren't available. An assailant could be someone with a gun, a knife, a baseball bat, a car driving into a crowd, or some other weapon designed to harm others. The run, hide, fight concept is modeled after a safety procedure many of us have already learned: stop, drop, and roll, which must be done in succession. However, in the case of run, hide, fight, succession isn't important. You must choose which action is appropriate for your situation and act immediately. You'll also need to continue reassessing what you need to do throughout the incident. Let's say you're in a hallway and locked out of all of the classrooms, and an assailant is inside the building. What do? You might run first and then hide, or hide, then run and hide again. What you choose to do depends on your situation. And because conditions are likely to change throughout the event, you must constantly be reassessing your situation. Okay, so let's go through what it means to run, hide, and fight. Run is used to create distance between you and the assailant. We can't all run at the same pace, so whether you can run, walk, crawl, or roll, do whatever is necessary to create distance between you and the assailant. If you have a safe path of escape, evacuate immediately. Make exterior access a top priority. If there isn't a traditional path of escape, look for non-traditional exits. In the cafeteria, your escape might take you through the kitchen area. In the classroom, that exit could be through a rescue window. Make sure to leave all personal items behind. They'll only slow you down. Try to help others if you can, but don't stop or slow down if others don't want to evacuate. During the event, prevent others from entering the danger zone. The goal is to run from danger to safety. Once you're safe, call 911. Hiding is used when the assailant is too close for you to run. It also gives time for law enforcement to arrive. While hiding, it's very important to avoid the attacker's line of sight if possible. One way of hiding is to cover and conceal, meaning that you're out of view from the assailant and putting something between you and the attacker that could stop a bullet if necessary. Seek as much cover as possible. If you can, find a room. Lock and barricade the door. You can also try to wedge the door shut. Don't be afraid to improvise. For instance, using a belt and wrapping it around the swing arm of the door can provide added security. If you're in a bathroom with no locks on the doors, stand on the toilet seat so your legs aren't visible. If you are unable to run or hide, you might need to fight. Fighting is a decision that is already made for you. You have no options to run or hide. This is a last resort when your life is in imminent danger. Try to immobilize the assailant. Use items you can find, anything and everything available to you to hit or throw at the attacker. Act with all your might and with all your strength. Aim for areas of physical weakness: eyes, throat, nose, groin. Yell and scream for help when fighting. Things that can help you during a fight scenario include using a fire extinguisher or chair to stop an assailant, barricade the door with a desk, or use a belt to stop the motion of the door handle. Anything that immobilizes or slows the assailant down gives law enforcement more time to arrive on scene and stop the suspect.
Law enforcement's top priority is to engage and stop the shooter. Help will arrive shortly after to care for those who have been injured. Knowing some basic first aid may help save your life or the lives of others. Do you know how to apply pressure to a wound that is bleeding? Do you know how to make a tourniquet if you need to? When law enforcement arrives, don't yell or point. Keep your hands visible in the air with your fingers spread apart. Law enforcement may not have a description of the assailant, and you do not want to be confused for the assailant. Remain calm and follow their directions. Once you reach a safe location, you will probably be held by law enforcement until the situation is under control and all the witnesses have been identified and questioned. Meaning, don't leave the area until law enforcement authorities have instructed you to do so. Act quickly and decisively. Seconds count.